101.5 FM in Las Vegas, only Talk FM in the Valley. We're with Doug Bennett and Toby Bickmore from SNWA, and we're talking water. I want to remind our listeners that our show is produced by the Green Alliance and sponsored by NV Energy, and we want to thank them. And I'm your host, Paul Ira. We have questions, I hope, coming in from our listeners from Facebook Live, and our listeners can call in at 702-257-5396. Before we went to break, we were talking about the water level a little bit, and Stan said we're at 1077 above sea level.
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus.
That's not the depth of the lake, mind you, that's sea
Right.
level. So
Yeah.
Right. So when it's completely full, what's the runoff level?
Well, it's 12 something, but it's down probably 130 feet since, when I came here, the lake was very full.
In 2000, yeah.
Yeah, the lake was very full in 2000, and then it was 2002 was that big hit we took. The river flowed at about 25% of what we considered average.
Gosh.
Wow.
So that's when it started dropping like a stone. And then there's been a lot of efforts among all the agencies that share the Colorado River to keep water in the lake. So
Right.
there's been a lot of improvements. There's been a lot of negotiations.
Sure,
Everybody
yeah.
understands that it's a critical reservoir.
Yeah, it's our
And-
lifeblood in a way, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really
And
is,
so
yeah.
I guess people need to understand when people aren't sitting around just wringing their hands watching the drought eat up the levels at Lake Mead. What they're doing instead is they're coming to agreements to try and bank water behind the dam and keep the levels up. Arizona right now is looking at what they're going to do in their state and what kind of agreements they have to have within their state to try and manage Lake Mead and to contribute to the situation. So an awful lot's going on, and policy is moving forward really through collaboration of the people that share the resource.
So it's interesting. I was talking this weekend about what the radio show is about and how the water rights division was put together. How many years ago was that divided up? And we can't just take as much water as we want. I don't think everyone knows that. There's a limited amount we can take, and everyone has when I say everyone, other states has their allotment. When did that all come about?
Well, there were a couple of acts in the 1920s that divided up the Colorado River, and when that was all said and done, Nevada wound up with 1.8%.
Right.
So less than 2% of the water in the Colorado River is dedicated to Nevada, and that's why we need to be so very careful with it. It's amazing to me, though, that SNWA has become such a major player on a river like that. When you're a 2% stakeholder, you can't afford to sit quietly in the corner when you're getting 2% of something.
Can that be renegotiated?
Oh no, and nobody's desire. I mean, you negotiate.
There has been recently. It wasn't a couple of years ago. Yeah,
You don't try to renegotiate those original allocations. What you try to do is collaborate with your neighbors.
Right.
I mean, it's sort of I've got eggs and you've got butter, and what can we do to help each other kind of thing. And so what we've done is created an awful lot of water banking opportunities, working with California and Arizona. You're looking for wins where multiple stakeholders are getting something they need out of the agreement, and everybody's winning. And so you're not renegotiating the original allocations. People would probably fight to the death over that, right?
Yeah,
And nobody wants a court to decide that. These are things best solved by the people involved, and that's what's happening.
Okay.
And we have aquifers underneath here too for the banking. That's how we've been able to kind of bank some of from Lake Mead or extra water.
In fact,
for reserves.
if it makes people feel better, we've got 8 years worth of water supply banked.
Wow.
So
that's
those
our reserve. Yeah.
Right. And so those banks, just like your savings account, they're intended to help you fill in any gaps in your supply, but they're not intended to be your supply.
Right.
So you got 8 years in reserve. You've got a new intake that has the ability to take water from Lake Mead at any level, really. There's no threat that we would not be able to withdraw our water resources from the Colorado River.
And that was
So
a 3-year project of a boring machine had to drill a tunnel underneath the
project,
amazing and
incredible engineering feat.
good job.
Yeah.
Way to go, yeah.
I personally dug that with my bare hands.
Oh wow, Doug, awesome.
Hence the dirty finger.
No, I just go out there to visit, and I'm amazed at the work that's being done, the technology in place, and I honestly I've actually gotten to go into those tunnels. I wish every water customer could go on a tour like that, and unfortunately they can't.
Yeah.
But I'd love for people to know what really has to happen to make the water come out of their tap. It's
Yes.
extraordinary.
Is there a video
Yes,
that they can
very
see?
much.
There are some videos. You can go to snwa.com, and if you just type in the search box "third intake," there are videos. There's
that'd be
information about it, how it works, how it functions, why it makes us more resilient. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And then also, I think there was a big effort by the valley to put in like almost like a big aqueduct system. I remember moving here in 2000. Also, I live up on the west side on Desert Inn, and they had these great big culverts that you could drive a car through, and they were actually digging up Desert Inn and plunking these down so that you could shunt the water from the roadside sewage drain right into these big culverts and then down to the aquifers. I guess there's this whole network of water flow that tries to bring water back to Lake Mead kind of underground, but it's amazing how intricate that is.
You mean just a stormwater channel or
Right,
something?
storm drains.
That's one of the challenges here. Somebody asked me the other day, why are we not catching the rain when it does come? I don't know if you guys have noticed, but water doesn't want to penetrate the ground in the Las Vegas Valley. It's
Right.
extraordinarily hydrophobic
Yeah.
soil. And so one of the challenges is, and I don't know if this is Pat Mulroy's original quote, but she said one time, we get 4 inches of rain and we don't know which day it's coming. Right? I mean, it's just like, it just
Exactly.
unloads
Yeah.
on us
When
occasionally.
it rains very hard.
And
So
for the safety of all of us, we just got to move it.
Yeah.
We
Get it
can't
in.
hold it. We can't store it. We got
Get
to
it
move it and
underground,
make
yeah.
sure we
well,
protect
doesn't it
property.
end up back in the lake?
It does
Very
wind up
channel,
back
yeah.
in the lake, but it's really negligible. Rainfall. Sometimes people think, oh, it rained a lot, so is the
Yeah.
lake up? The lake is really supplied by snowmelt in Wyoming, Utah, Colorado. That's where all the action is. These rains can be useful, and they're most useful if you go turn off your irrigation system.
Substitute,
That's what I need you to do.
Substitute
Don't
the
think the
natural.
lake's filling up. It's not when it rains. But go turn off your irrigation
Yeah.
system and leave
With
it
a
on
Catch
rain.
it,
as long
There
catch
you
it, and use
go.
it. Yeah.
We say rain events are evaporated in a day of summer. So
True
Right.
enough. So let's talk about what great work we've done on conserving water and the Water Smart program. Tell us about that.
So that's our turf conversion program. So we've had it running since like 2000 roughly. So it's been around for a while. So we just incentivize people to take grass out and put desert landscape in. I think one of the interesting things for our conservation group here is that we do a lot of research before we do programs, where other places around the country will often just mimic what places are doing, but we actually will do research. And so we did a lot of research early on and just found how much more water grass uses versus desert landscape. And so that was something that's very measurable for us. And so it's been a very successful program. We're approaching 200 million square feet of turf.
Yeah.
And so
Reduced?
yes, that we've taken out.
Nice.
And so it's been just a great program for us. And so, we do the rebates kind of based on what the cost of conversion is for people. So we kind of, just see what the market is doing and how much it costs people to take grass out and put desert landscape in if they're doing it themselves or a landscape or what have you. And so, again, based on research, we just decided that, we need to raise the rebate. And so we just did that a couple months ago. And so I see it usually first on the single family side. That's where people are starting to come in right away when something like that happens. And my volume has gone up like 100% because of it. And this is during the summer, which usually it's normally very slow.
Yeah.
Usually people aren't thinking about landscaping.
It's what
and
we
so-
call Netflix season, right?
Nobody wants to go out and do
Stay in
landscaping.
your,
down and
stay in your
read.
house and see what's on TV.
Exactly.
So we see
Exactly what I did yesterday.
So what, I've got a number from a project we did, but what's your reductions from what per square foot to what per square foot when you go from turf to desert landscaping? How much
So
water
again,
do you
going back to
save?
the research, we estimate about 70 some gallons is used per square foot of grass per year. If you go to desert landscape, it's in the 20s. So the reduction is about 55 gallons per square foot per year.
That's tremendous.
And what's interesting is we did a study, again, late 1990s, where we looked at 300 properties, and we came up with that number. We then, about 7-8 years ago, went and looked at thousands of properties that had been in our program and came up with a number almost exactly at that 55. So that's a very good number for us of what the reduction is just by taking it out.
The project we did had a reduction, and it was a Bell, Rose, and Bradley. It was from 79 gallons per square foot annually to 3 gallons per square foot.
Wow.
Wow.
But they didn't have, prolific desert landscaping. I mean, there was a lot of rocks, so the plants were spread out.
Sure.
We're going to talk more about this on KDWN 720 and 101.5 Shades of Green.